All right, let's go. All right, Tim, let's get going.
Okay, Dal, I think before we get to the questions, Dal, I got to ask you, Dad. Winnipeg, what are they now, Dal? 9-0?
9, yeah.
9-0. Everything seems to be going their way.
When I started training camp, and that's what the Rochester Americans used to get ticked at me, is that I put the lines together and they stayed together to the whole training camp.
Well, I think the one thing with Winnipeg...
And Hellebuck, it does play too many games.
Yeah, he played 60 games last year, 60-some. I think he burns out, hey, Dal?
It's hard to keep it up, yeah.
What did you, like, Cheevers was your guy?
I about 40-some games, and then play him at the end, get him ready for the playoffs, pay him about 4 games in a row.
They haven't lost yet, so what do you do right now with Hellebuck? Do you keep it going with them?
Well, you keep going with him. You got to keep going with him. Can't change now.
No. But it was funny, though. We were watching a little bit of the game, and I think the tying goal for Winnipeg went off the glass, hit the goalie Wolf in the back, and went in.
I remember we won 18 games in a row, and I kept saying it was going off the skates, it was going off the backboards, everything was going our way. And boy, did we get into a slump. And you think that wasn't hard getting out of that slump?
So you got a funny story when you were like undefeated in 18 and you went to Cheevers.
I went to Cheevers and I said, nobody listens to you when you win 18 and 18 in a row. And he says, what? and I said it again.
Yeah, you bit.
I bit.
That was Cheevers. That was one time they got beat 8-2, and Harry went in and was just mad at Cheevers, and he said, Jerry, you let in 8 goals. What happened? What happened? And he said,
roses are red, violets are blue. They got 8 and we got 2. Harry was standing there transfixed.
But yeah, Winnipeg, everything's going their way. But it was funny thing is, though, Dad, we were watching the Leaf game last night, and the Bruins were having a bit of a tough time. And you said that the players watch the coach, not when you win, but the players watch the coach when they start to lose.
They watch the coach. They look at the coach and when things are going bad. And I remember Terry O'Reilly saying he's almost feminine when you lose. And I was.
Yeah, you said you were harder on the team when they were winning.
Oh, I was harder on the team when they were winning. And because they don't need it then, they need it when they're losing.
Okay, so Darren Burr's asked, is Sidney Crosby one of the top 5 forwards in NHL history?
Well, I got this question before, and I looked it up. 2 Hart Ross, 2 Hart Trophy, 3 this is a very important one, Ted Lindsay Award, because the players vote on that one.
Yeah.
3 Stanley Cups, World Junior Gold, 2 Olympic gold, 1 championship, and 2 Conn Smythe. I'd say he's in the top 5.
Yeah, that's right. You couldn't do much more,
no. What else could you add up there?
So who would your top 5 be?
Oh, geez.
You go Gretzky for sure.
You know Gretzky for sure. You know Lemieux for sure. You know Gordy. We took
Gordie Howe.
Gordie Howe in there. Mike Bossy. Bossy's got to be in there too.
And then Crosby.
And Crosby.
Yeah. Instead of Bossy, I would pick Rocket.
Yeah.
Because Rocket's still set to standard 50 goals in 50 games.
Yeah.
That's the gold standard.
That's the gold standard, and 50 goals in 50 games, and anybody gets that, they don't forget.
Right, that's what they shoot. And what's Bossy known for? Bossy's known for the guy who was second getting 50 goals.
Yeah, but nobody remembers Bossy.
No, and he was maybe one of the best goal scorers.
Yeah, he was one of. He used to be crying all the time. There was cross-checking in front, and that's what finally got him.
Yeah,
and the cross-checking in front.
He got his back, eh?
Yeah.
Keeping it going with Crosby. Olian99 asks, hey, Grapes, who should be captain of Team Canada? Crosby or McDavid?
Well, McDavid said it should be Crosby, and it should be Crosby. I have to laugh. In that commercial, he says, the kids will be kids.
Yeah, you're young. Well, I even think like if they went to McDavid and said we want you to be captain, I don't think McDavid would say no. He'd give it to Crosby.
Yeah.
He'd give it to Crosby.
Are you looking forward to that? Four Nations?
No, not really.
Stuff like everybody, they're all excited until the Leafs, until Marner or Matthews gets hurt.
Yeah,
and then they'll say it's terrible.
Yeah. I'd say I was watching the game last night for Toronto, and you could see it was Austin and Marner were playing penalty kill as well.
Yeah.
That was a weird one for me. I was just thought,
I just don't understand him having those two guys. They're not going to block shots.
You don't want them blocking shots.
You don't want to block shots.
too much money in the line there.
Yeah, going to be sorry.
They're playing with fire because they've been doing that for a while, and eventually that's going to catch up with them. Especially they have those little gloves. A puck, get a puck in the wrist or a broken ankle.
Yeah.
And then Berube will catch hell. Why were you doing that?
Why were you playing those guys? That doesn't make any sense.
Denton Williams asks, how many Blues have you had?
I've had two. One was couldn't do anything wrong. Remember, Tim?
Yeah, your first Blue couldn't do anything wrong.
And the second Blue couldn't do anything right.
I remember you used to, the first Blue, we'll call the original Blue, you used to hit or throw the ball for hours with her. That one was like your meditation. And then you had it so much that you had to get a tennis racket.
Yeah, and I got a tennis racket because I was throwing the ball so much, my arm started to go.
Bringing back the baseball injury.
My arm started my arm started to go, and I did get a tennis racket to hit the ball.
I used to hit it, guys. I remember Mom get mad because you'd kind of get lost. Blue'd come in and her paws would be bleeding.
Yeah.
So then we get our second Blue, and you're all excited about throwing the ball to Blue. All excited. You're finally going to get back throwing the ball because when Blue got older, you didn't throw the ball. First Blue, you didn't throw the ball as much. So you threw the ball to the second Blue, and she went and got it with enthusiasm and brought it back.
Yeah.
And then you threw it again, and she kind of looked at you, not quite as enthusiastic, went and got the ball. And then the third time you threw it, she kind of looked at you. What the hell, man? I brought it to you back twice. I'm not doing it a third time.
And she didn't.
No, that was the last time you threw the ball to her.
Never, ever, ever went and got the ball again.
No, and you got mad at her.
Yeah. That dog. It was a funny thing. It was the worst dog in the world. It really was the worst.
Well, yeah, he was. I remember when you went over to Sherry Bass, and people in hockey know Sherry Bass. Remember you went to his bar, and Blue was in the back.
Oh, and she actually was going to bite me.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What did she do?
Oh, it was like the devil. She got possessed. It was unbelievable. And when you see a bull terrier like that, it's scary.
I just drove away.
Yeah.
She's like that all the time, and I could just feel her teeth on my neck. Boy,
but then she turned into a good dog.
And you know what? And the funny thing is, Luba, she treated her really nice and treated her good and everything, and she turned into a good dog.
Bull terriers are the only dog. When you ask an owner of a bull terrier, should you get a bull terrier? Every owner says no.
every owner says no because the first 4 years you have to put up with you have to put up with them.
Yeah, I remember my cousin Steven, he had a bunch of bull terriers. He had some horse. He had a couple of really crazy bull terriers. So he was saying, he was talking. He goes, I'm on the couch, and he says, my dog, my bull terrier, he started going crazy, and he was growling, and his wife Tina says, well, he didn't go crazy, he didn't. And then Steve looked at Tina and said, Tina, Tim had a bull terrier. He knows what I'm talking about.
Everybody knows about bull terriers.
Yeah. If you have a bull terrier, they all act the same, and they're a great dog, but you don't recommend them for people.
No, you never recommend a bull terrier to any people because they're nuts for the first 4 years.
Yep. Okay, Dad, what's next? We got a tough one coming up now, Dad.
Yeah.
Okay. From Barry Calhoun, if you were building a team and you had to choose between a 50-goal scorer or would you pick a top coach?
I would take a top coach, and I'll tell you why. The 50-goal scorer might turn into a 20-goal scorer. I would definitely take a top coach.
Okay, Dal, next question.
Leaf hater. Hey, Dodd, can you explain why two teams with the best offensive players, the Leafs and the Oilers, have one of the worst power plays? What did you do?
Well, I'd put out the fourth line.
So if the power play wasn't going, you'd throw out the fourth line.
Fourth line, and boy, would they work.
But you really never had a first power play, Dad.
I never really had a first power play when I could see that.
Because you look like the Leafs have all their eggs in one basket with Marner, Matthews, and Nylander, right? And if those guys go cold, you see what happens. Like the power play's terrible. So you used to have Terry O'Reilly was 90 points. You had Peter McNabb with 40 goals, and then you had John Wensink that had 17 goals. It stood in front. And if they didn't go, then you'd put out Jean Rattel, Hall of Famer. You'd put out Schmatzy and Ricky Middleton, 40, 50 goals. That line had almost 70 goals.
Yeah.
And if that line didn't go, then you put Greg Shepard, Donnie Marcotte, and Wayne Cashman out.
Yeah, and I used to put out Wayne Cashman all the time, try to get him in front of the net.
Front of the net. So if one of your lines or two of your lines didn't go, at least you had a backup.
I had a backup, and I had went with the fourth line. Then you went with the third line. Then you went with the second line. Then you went with the first line. Whatever line was going, you knew you had him.
Right, and then we didn't even put Stan in there, who had 25 goals. Stan would have been on one side too. Yes. So you could go Stan, Secord, and Bobby Miller. 20 goals. Stan had 20 goals, and Secord ended up getting 50 goals one year.
Yeah, we should talk about him next week.
Two greatest back-to-back seasons ever in the National Hockey League was Al Secord. Nobody ever talks about it. We'll talk about it next week. But that's the thing, Dad, is that you had 11 20-goal scorers, and if one line wasn't going, the other line would pick it up. Berube can't do that. So what do? Do you just keep playing those guys till they work their way out of it?
I would keep playing them. They're too good. They're too good.
Yeah, they'll get out of it. Same with Edmonton. They'll
get out of it.
All right, we got Brian and Bobby. He says, hey there from New Zealand. How do you rate the Flames' chances of making the playoffs this year? And he says, follow it up, keep up the great podcast. Love listening to it here.
Hard to believe, that people in New Zealand are listening to the podcast. Next week, we'll go over all the different countries. It really is.
It's cool to see.
It's incredible. Like, if you're not kind of familiar with it.
It's got a little world map, and you can see the hot spots that we pop up.
Hot spots, yeah.
No, we'll do all of them.
Yeah, we'll do all of them next week. I think our top three right now are, of course, Canada, U.S., UK. We were, for 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, China was our fourth largest one.
Is that right?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we didn't get any, so something happened that maybe they shut us down. Japan we were big in. So how do you think the Flames will do?
I think the Flames are going to be, all they needed was a good goaltender, and they got a good goaltender.
I really hope that Wolf does well, because he's smaller, Dal?
He is,
He's smaller, and he's mobile. And, Dad, you and I, when we went out scouting, we saw so many good little goalies.
Small goaltenders.
That were just fantastic, and were quick, and would win games, but just got overlooked because they were... At 15 years old, they were 5'10", right?
Yeah.
Which is too small.
It's just crazy to believe.
Right. And the whole thing was you never know, if they have a growth spurt and stuff. But it was sad. I remember the one goalie, I forget his name, from the Rebels. He was so good.
He was so good, yeah.
But he was maybe 5'7". But he went right. He took the team deep into the playoffs and
didn't even get drafted.
Nope. So you think the Flames will make the playoffs?
So I think the Flames will make the playoffs. They better make the playoffs. I think the fans are just on the border of, they're pretty good fans in Calgary, too.
Yeah, they deserve a team to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, they deserve it.
Okay, Dad, this one, I'll just ask you a quick question. Cal McCarr is leading the NHL right now in points as a defenseman.
And Bobby Orr, he led it twice.
Yeah, but do you think he can? He'll win.
No, he won't. He won't.
So there'll never be another defenseman to win the scoring title?
Never be another defenseman top scorer.
So you had Bobby when he did his.
I can't remember his goals. I remember
I remember one goal against Atlanta.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was killing penalties.
Killing a penalty.
And he was fooling around back of the net. And if you chased him back of the net, he'd go out in front of the net. And if you chased him, he'd go in the back of the net. So they said, we're not going to do this. So they let him go down the right side, nice and slow. And he says, nobody's running at him. And he went in the corner, the far corner, and all of a sudden everybody said, I'm going to get him. And he ran in the corner. They fell down.
They all fell down.
They all fell down. Well, what happened is he went around the net, and I will never forget. I don't know where the defenseman went, and the goalie went out.
Yeah, the
goalie went out and tried to stop him from going behind the net. And then he went behind the net, and then he came right out in front, and he just tucked her home.
You know what I remember about that, though, Dad? Again, different time. He just put his head down and skated, like didn't jump around like an idiot. Like, he just put his head down, and they went over and tapped each other on the pads and got ready again.
Yeah, he was really something. And when he'd score a goal, he'd point. Gave
a lot of points away.
He gave a lot of points away.
A lot of goals away. The strange thing is, he led the league in scoring. Was like a plus 120. And played well in the playoffs, and then he came in after the playoffs and said, I didn't play well for you.
He didn't play well. Jeez, if anybody had played half as good as you
would have won the cup. Okay, so Dad, it's another one. I don't know who it was from, but the question was, what was it like playing in the American Hockey League in the 60s?
Well, you take a look at it. They had 6 teams in the AHL.
Yeah.
AHL, American Hockey League.
Right.
And they had 6 teams in the Central League, which was 6 teams.
Yeah.
Central League.
So that's 12.
And the Western League, you had 6 teams. So there's 18 teams. And in the National Hockey League, they only carried 5 defensemen.
Right.
And when one get hurt, they'd say, who's not playing down in there? We want him to sit here.
So it must have been tough for the American Hockey League because, as you say, there are guys trying to go up and guys down trying to get back up.
I remember the first time we saw Frank Mathers. I mean, nobody ever heard of Frank Mathers. Boy, oh boy, was he good. Was he good. And I said, holy shit, if everybody is as good as the National Hockey League as him, we're deep trouble. And he was a player coach.
How did that work? Did you just roll the lines?
Just roll the lines and 4 defensemen.
I just couldn't imagine there would be a coach behind the bench. They got about 4 now.
What have they got? They got about 5.
Yeah, and
they're tripping over one another.
And he would be playing and just.
And he'd just roll the lines. And
so would he say anything to you, like if you're coming off the ice or like?
Oh, he'd say something. He was so good, though. He was terrific.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like a guy like that who was in the American League now.
You know why they didn't like him was because he wanted to go to dentist school.
Right, I heard that. Yeah, he wanted to go to school.
Nobody ever, and they had a little club going. The owners had a little club going. You don't touch that guy, don't touch this guy, don't touch that guy.
Well, it was different too because there was no free agency, right? Like he couldn't, like Frank Mathers couldn't leave Boston until Boston let him go, right?
Unless he signed a C form. A C form means that you're owned by that club outright.
Forever. So he couldn't. So it wasn't the thing where he'd say, "Well, I'll screw this as soon as my contract's up." But he
can't leave.
We'll do one more, Dad. So they want to know: you picking Dodgers? They're up 2-0, or Yankees?
Well, I want Yankees to win because from the East here, and but 2-0. This should have been asked last week.
Like I'm a Red Sox fan, so it's like taboo to root for the Yankees, but I don't like the Dodgers, so I'm rooting for the Yankees. I think they're going to come back.
Who do you think, Del?
I'd like to see the Yankees win.
Yeah.
Well, we all like to see the Yankees win.
Yeah, I like the Dodgers. They're feeling their oats a little bit. They're yapping at the Yankee dugout, and
You think they're poking the bear a little bit?
I think they are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like those guys are, like that just might give them that little extra something.
A little something.
But if they don't win, that manager's going to get it. I feel sorry for Judge. Like he's up there at the bat. It looks like he's thinking too much, right?
Don't think. Just play.
But what did Peter say to you one time? Peter
Oh,
McNabb?
yeah. Peter McNabb said to me, don't think, Crepes, you're hurting the club.